YFM.
In the second hour of the mid-morning radio show Upper, time for Wiley the Board series. My guest is in the building. Now, for most of the guys who are quite new to Wiley the Board series, well, it's YFM's innovative radio programming content to develop the youth and provide inspiration to all our many listeners. Now, stats reveal that Ghana's population is young, with about 61% being 30 years and below. The International Labour Organization, ILO Youth and Future Work of Service shows that about 1/3 of the youth in emerging and developing countries view their future work life with fear and uncertainty. YFM, Ghana's #1 youth and urban station with year-on-year dominance in radio programming, according to the Geopoll, therefore deems it a responsibility to add to the bouquet of creative and informative content on our station by hosting leaders and achievers in various sectors and industries in Ghana and beyond, in bringing hope, meaning and development and leadership coaching tips to our vibrant listeners. Follow us on radio and then our digital platforms as well. So far, we've done what? One season already. We did 14 episodes. We are in the new season. That's season 2. And my guest today is my third guest. Super excited about that. If you're live with us on our Facebook, big ups going out to you. You can drop in the comments on there. Share it. Tell your friends we are on. The Wiley the Board series is on. Now, the Wiley the Board series has over the past months proven its commitment to inspiring the youth of the country with compelling life stories of giants across key sectors of our economy. Now, today we host an iconic figure in the banking industry who has been crunching numbers for most part of his life. Please pay attention to the accolades, by the way. He has an MBA from the Oxford Institute of International and Finance, Oxford Brookes University, a fellow of the Association of Chartered Certified Accountants, ACCA UK, and a member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants, Ghana, ICAG. He also has held senior leadership positions as Finance Director at GCB Bank in the past, Group Chief Finance Officer at EcoBank Capital, Financial Controller at Barclays Bank of Ghana, that is now ABSA, Chief Finance Officer at UBA Ghana, and as a Finance Business Partner at the Standard Chartered Bank Ghana, with industry exposure from Tractor and Equipment Ghana, now Mantrack, and of course Western Castings Limited. Until recently, he worked with Universal Merchant Bank, that is UMB, as Chief Executive Officer, CEO. Mr. John Awuah, Deputy CEO of the Ghana Association of Bankers, is our guest today on your favorite Wiley the Board series. Super happy to have you here with me, sir. I was told, my team told me how much of a busy man you are. Yeah. So when you decided to join us in here, I was very happy. And of course, it feels good. I mean, let me just start off with this, though, by the way. Jerry told me you're a proud old boy of OT.
Yes, I am.
Ken, thank you so much for bringing an OT person to me. Because I think for a while, it was, my people were doing their thing. But at least we have an Osei person in the building.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, DM.
Yeah,
DM. Let me start off by finding, what kind of music do you like? What kind of songs do you listen to on the regular while you were driving here?
I appreciate music. Very much. So I go with most of the local lyrics, like the one that we just...
the one that we just played, Trickmatic, right?
Something that talks about what the country has. And I think this country has a lot to offer. So I go with whatever is local.
Whatever is local.
Yeah.
You are a Made in Ghana person.
I'm a Made in Ghana person.
And shouts going out to the GMABC team, though. We're doing Made in Ghana month. So throughout the month of September, everything we do is Ghanaian.
I love it.
I mean, we do that all the time, but we're paying extra attention to everything that is made in Ghana. Our music, our food, our finance, since you're a banker. I mean, people who have done so much for our industry and are from Ghana. We're celebrating all these people throughout the month. Still on the music bit, though, who are your favorite artists in Ghana, since you like the local songs?
When it comes to high life, I always prefer Daddy Lumba.
Okay.
I like his lyrics.
Okay.
I think he's always evergreen. I like people who are always able to reinvent themselves. He's someone who epitomizes that. So I like him. And on the modern,
the young squad.
I like the kind of Bisake there kind of music.
Wow.
Yeah, I think he's also more of high life, but in the modern way. Yeah, modern way. And gospel, I like the Tego Sisters or
you like your old school
Daughters
music.
of Glorious Jesus. Any one of them.
That does it for you. Now, I read so much about you. I mean, you've done so much in the past few years. All these things that we touched on are things that are part of our lives. I mean, a lot of you guys stay behind, the scenes and work out a lot of things. I mean, our finances are what it is now thanks to different people like yourself, constantly putting in work. But today, the purpose for which we're here is to inspire people.
Yeah.
I mean, I know a lot of people have worked with you in the past. countless number of people. I mean, a lot of the guys are texting on Facebook right now. Some of your workers are waiting to share their experience, with you. I mean, working with you and that. Yeah. But I know deep inside there are things that you might have gone through, things that you might have experienced. I mean, people don't really know how you got to where you are today. Yeah. And for that purpose, we are here today to talk to our listeners, to touch base with the very concerned ones. I believe by the end of the interview, a lot of people will be inspired. I mean, that's what we've been doing, so far. And yours won't be any different case. But to inspire someone, you need to take the person through the genesis. Yeah. And Wiley the Board Series, that's our tradition. We like to start from the very beginning. Tell us your story. Let's start from day one. If John Awuah's life is a movie, what scene are we starting with? Where did you grow up? Where were you born? How was childhood like for you?
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. I think it goes to the point that you made. If you want to know someone, then you've got to start from where he started from. So I'm a very humble guy coming from a very, very humble background.
Okay.
As I said, I grew up in Kumasi. My father was a mechanic.
Okay.
Yeah. If you know about this car, Leyland Albion, that was my father's trade. That is the car that my father used to repair, and that is exactly what he did until he passed away about 10 years ago. Wow. My mom was a petty trader, and hers was a pure petty trading, not the kind that trading with other workers or had somebody in hand. She used to sell oranges. Okay. On by the roadside. So I'm coming from a home that in modern Ghana we would say a very poor home. Yeah. But the point is, we are where we are because of a whole lot of series of activities that happened in the course of my life. My father was an illiterate, stark illiterate, who did not really step foot in the classroom. My mom alike was an illiterate, so for them to have taken me through the education that I've had, I owe everything to them, and without them, of course, first and foremost to God, and then to them. Without them, I wouldn't be here. I started my primary education at Smes Preparatory, which is a school in Kumasi. We were actually the pioneers. We were living in Mespa, yeah. We were living in the class. Okay. So competition started very early for us, because if you were even fifth or sixth, you were closer to the last. Than to the first. So competition has become a bit of part of me, but I take the positive side of competition, not over competition. So I did Smes Preparatory, and because we were pioneers, the school hadn't put a lot of systems in place, even to take care of our final exams. We got to stage 6, only to realize that they had not registered us for common entrance. Wow. And so we had to fish for ourselves. and in those days, if you hadn't done your common entrance, it was very difficult to get into any of the good schools around. That's true. So you had to wait, and the schools that did not get their normal allocation of student population, they would organize what we used to call in those days late entrance. So I took part in a late entrance at Osei Tutu Secondary School in 1987.
Sorry to interrupt. Is it what we would call these days wasn't a matured entrance? No. Really.
So the late entrance was, the normal route to entry of secondary school at the time was common entrance. Okay. But because our school had not registered us for common entrance, common entrance is a semblance of like a BEC. A BEC now. Sort of. Yeah, but we had, if you did not make the grade for common entrance, there was an opportunity for schools that did not get the right allocation of students to enter class Form 1. They would organize what we used to call the late entrance. So the late entrance, basically, technically, it was organized by the schools that were not that well endowed, and therefore people did not really make those schools their first choices, and therefore they couldn't have the student population that they normally would want to run the school. Yeah. So that is how come I got entry into Osei Tutu Secondary School, and from Form 1 all the way to Form 5. Yeah.
What kind of students were you? Back in school, were you popular? Were you the famous type? Were you the stubborn type?
I was very little, and people rarely heard of me until I was in secondary school, Form 3.
Okay.
And then I think I became a bit stubborn.
Okay.
Not stubborn in the
vices.
The vices, going out of school, and no, but I was a bit of a talkative. So I actually quite frequently got myself involved in punishment here and there, because I've gone to get myself involved in a seniors issue. They will be chatting as seniors, and I'll just pop in and say something, and then those days you couldn't talk on a senior.
Did you have a nickname back in school?
Plenty of it, but the one that I took away was they used to call me Painter. And why they used to call me Painter? I entered secondary school back in preparatory school. We had this what we call the slide. So you climb from the back in a stair, and then you sit on the slide, and then you slide down. They still have them in the primary schools.
Okay.
So when we completed school, I stood at the back, that is the stairs, and took a picture. And that picture looked like somebody who was climbing a ladder. I took this picture, was in my trunk for a while. The senior, happened to find it and said, so one day on a roll call, he said, you guys, when you go to school, you don't work. Look at this young guy. When he goes home, he's a painter.
He's a painter, wow.
And then all of a sudden, that became my name. And I took it all the way from Form 1 to Form 5.
Wow. What were some of the particular things you enjoyed doing most in school? I mean, aside our regular studies, were you into sports? Were you the type that would organize your friends?
No, I wasn't. I enjoyed sports. Okay. I like to go for the taco and the like. But back in the day, I had some very good friends around me who were mostly what we still call Krife people. So I was
SU
I was an SU guy, doing the SU side and doing my other side, my other things on the side as well. But I was more involved in the SU side of things. And we had a man who would come on campus. He used to live in the neighborhood of the school. Who would come on campus and would take my friends and I, through some Bible studies when others were on the park and playing. Yeah.
During these times, I mean, you were just enjoying your youth. You were just being the famous guy in school, the painter in school. You had your friends and all that. Were there any special grand aspirations you had? I mean, at that point, did you know what you wanted to get into? Did you have plans of getting into a particular field career-wise?
Very good question. I would say zero. I grew up in a household where, from my father's side, I'm the first person to have entered secondary school at that level. Yes. Another cousin of mine was also at OT, was 82 secondary school. But then all the way to university, I was the first. My mother's side too, I was the first. And in the family, there was hardly somebody you would find. Even in the neighborhood, there was hardly somebody you would find and say, I want to be like this person. But one thing that I really got lucky with was I was a bit good with numbers, and I think on the book side I was up there. I wouldn't say I was the best student, but I was always challenging at the very top. So teachers took particular interest in me. So every now and then a teacher would become my inspiration. And that when I grow up, I'd like to be like this teacher, because the teacher would take interest in my development. As for looking at a certain big man or a certain professional somewhere and looking and saying I want to be like that person, I didn't have it.
So, I mean, that aside, you never at any point said, okay, let's say I want to be a doctor, I want to be a farmer, or you just wanted to survive?
It was more of survivor, but I mean, of course, in those days, growing up, everybody wanted to be either a doctor or the pharmacist
or a lawyer.
But we said it sometimes without even knowing the route to becoming those kind of professionals. So yes, if it is that kind of aspiration you are talking about, of course, I'm sure I must have said I wanted to be a doctor. I forgot it, but I must have said something like that. But science wasn't a friend of mine, so I couldn't have become a doctor.
Okay. Now you furthered to UCC.
Yes.
To study. That school is known for its demanding academic environment. My friends that went to UCC were often, made fun of, Because apparently you guys even went to prep and all that. My guy was Michael. So we have a host here. He's on Shouts on Why, and people always tease him that he went to do all the preps and all that, and now he's chilling with us. Zero prep, nothing of that sort. I mean, knowing how heavy things are when it comes to academics in UCC, how did you manage the transition from senior secondary school to an institution that demanded a lot of academics? I mean, we all grew up in Kumasi. We know the life there. There's a lot of liberty. You can do what you like, and then you get to a space where things are super structured. You barely even see any sight of fun. There's all book.
Yeah.
How did you manage the transition?
Yeah, I mean, actually, I think it's a good question. But before I come to that, there's one or two stories I would like to share about the transition even to university.
Sure.
In between, from Oseti to, I did my Form 5 O-level there. Then I went to KES.
Oh, you went to a KES as well?
I went to a KES for 6th form.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was when I think on the day I had dressed up to go to school. That was to go for my lower 6.
Okay.
In those days, O level you wore your shorts and your blue shirts for 82. But A level we used to wear trousers, and it was something that we all look forward to wearing. To doing.
Juniors wear the shorts. And when you become a senior, you wear the
so I had my nice uniform on, and I was going to KES. So KES was known more for sports than for secretary.
Okay.
More for sports than for academic work. So, but I had gone not thinking about sports because I went there on my own credentials of the grades I got in the O level. Then I met a man in front of our house, I think a few hours before leaving for school. They said, he called me in my local name, Entry. Why, are you preparing for school? I said, yes, I'm going to school. He said, KES. Oh, yes, I had this crest. So, KES. So he asked, which sport do you do? Then it dawned on me that he didn't even ask, are you going to pursue business or arts or science? I mean, his interest was with sport because the school was known for the sporting side of the things and not academic work. So I have not had, I would say, as we said, the people who have come here perhaps sat on this seat, Ivy Leagues in Ghana. I didn't have any. But those schools, I'm very proud of what OKS and OT have done to me. The kind of discipline I went through in OT was contrary to all the things that people
had
assigned to the school as not so good a school, and it's one of the best schools that you find on earth, I tell you. And so, but at the university, you said, I actually went to Legon before leaving for Cape Coast.
You've tried everything.
Yes. I went to Legon and I was pursuing BA admin. All my friends were pursuing BSc admin. And I was pursuing BA admin. And I had done accounting for the entire of my 6th form. And 6th form accounting was very difficult or very tough to go to. I didn't want to just drop it. So without informing anybody, none of my family members knew. I myself, with the little pocket money I had, I left school in Legon after being on campus for about 1.5 months, and then went to Cape Coast. On a fine Saturday, I just packed my stuff. My roommate was asking, where are you going? I said, I'm leaving. And I went to Cape Coast.
You left the University of Ghana?
I left the University of Ghana.
You didn't tell no family member?
No. I didn't tell any of my friends because I knew if I told anybody, they would have discouraged me to reconsider it. Because of course, at that time, the most prestigious school in a university,
the premier
university, people say, but I have no regrets taking that decision. And I went to Cape Coast. So back to your point. So I went to Cape Coast, and I was far behind because they had opened school.
Yes, they were far ahead in the curriculum
for a while, and I had to now catch up. So there was a bit of serious learning in the early days.
So wait, let me get this straight. While you were a student in the University of Ghana, having your life, you had your friends, you were offered BA admin, you took it.
Yeah.
You decided to apply to UCC?
Okay, so I applied to both UCC and Legon. I had both. I had BCom for UCC, and I was expecting to get BSc admin in Legon. Unfortunately, University of Ghana gave me BA admin, which is something. And now I was promised that in my second year
you can switch.
I can switch to BSc, but I didn't trust that system. That it is possible that I'll get there, having done 1 year, then I'll be told you have to go that route. And it was economics and the rest. And I said, I wanted to pursue my accounting, and it was something I wasn't prepared to let go at that time. So I left, and for the first semester in Cape Coast, actually my father, anyway, my father is not, he wasn't the type who take a car and say, I'm coming to visit you on campus, because he didn't know that it was a normal thing to do. He's an illiterate who is a mechanic, fixing the vehicles and the trucks. So all he cared about was, are you still in school? I said, yes, I'm in campus.
Are your grades fine?
Where you are, that's fine. So
wow.
So I left without them actually knowing, and I have no regrets on that decision.
Let's go back to that fine Saturday morning, the day you decided to leave for UCC.
Yeah.
I mean, now you cast your mind back, and it looks like the best decision you took. Were you sure? Was it very risky for you? Did you just tell yourself, okay, anything can come. Let me just move and go. Whatever happens, happens.
Yeah. So my roommate, who was actually patching me, I had a room, he didn't. So he was happy that I was going, because
he was going to get the space.
He was going to get the space. So he said something, and in the taxi going to Kaneshi for the vehicle to Cape Coast, he kept, playing back in my mind. He said, don't you want to be a Legonite? So I said, am I making a mistake? But then the driving force to go to Cape Coast was far greater than the privileges and the prestige that at the time was associated with being a Legonite or being on campus. And all my friends were there, were moving in groups, and I think it is one of the driving force for me to leave, because my friends, I think we were about 8, 7 of them were pursuing BSc admin, and I was the only one pursuing BA. I found myself following, and following when it is time for their lectures, they would all go, because it's 7 numbers count. When it's time for my lecture, sometimes I have to skip. I have to skip in order to join for 1 or 2 activities. And so if I had stayed, I'm sure potentially or possibly could have affected my studies.
Wow. And so let's just get it straight. You are proud of the decision you made.
I don't have any regrets, apart from the hard work on campus.
Are you still in touch? Do you still stay in touch with your friend, your roommates back then?
Yeah. No, my roommate is in the US now, but the friends that I had on campus, we are all back here, and we keep in touch every Saturday. We all meet.
Who knows? If you had stayed, you would have been in the US with your friend. Maybe I said, handling your things there. Let's move on. How easy was it for you to make that big decision to give up your individuality? I mean, you did that in uni. You left your squad and then decided to join UCC, start life afresh there. But let's talk about this in a family context. Living your individual life and settling down as a family man. Did your family orientation and growth environment contribute to it anyway?
If I had used my family background, I'm sure I would have stayed single for a long time. My parents divorced when I was like 3 months.
Wow.
So outside the fact that there was no home, as you call it, I also grew up in a broken home. So yes, so parents are illiterate. They are in these menial jobs, and then they are not together. They're still. So growing up, as I lived in my early days with my mom. Then after about 2 years, my dad came for me, and from then on I stayed with him to the extent that when my father came for me, because of the friction between them, he changed my name. And when he changed my name, I used to be called Albert George Entry. Then my father came for me and said, no, you'll be called John Awuah. He was called John Awuah.
You were George Entry.
George Entry.
Before you became
That was what
John
was my
Awuah.
baptismal certificate.
Wow.
Then my father came for me and changed my name.
How old were you at this point?
I don't know. I believe about 3 years or
Okay.
for 3 years. I'm sure. Yeah, when I was about entering, nursery to primary.
So you went in with a new name.
So I went in,
Okay.
with John Awuah. But my mom did not know. She still knew me as George Entry.
Wow.
So when I was on campus one day, I think Form 3 or so, she decided to visit. Then she came looking for George Entry.
George Entry.
And roamed the entire school for hours and hours, even not for the fact that she was unrelenting and wanted to see me.
She would have gone.
She would have gone. I was going to the dining hall after she had been on campus for like 4 hours.
Oh, man.
Then I just ran into her. I said, but nobody knows you on this campus. I said, but who are you looking for?
Looking
She
for?
said, George Entry. I said, no, I'm never George Entry.
Beautiful story.
Yeah. I've been John Awuah. So the family side was a bit of a challenge. Yes, my father was a great father. I was never kicked out of school for school fees, for books, for nothing. For everything that he had, he made sure that I was taken care of in that regard. Forgive him for the fact that he did not know all these other nice things that when you are going to school you have to go for with a chop box. I never carried a chop box to school. O level, A level, university, whatever. I never went to school with provisions. He'll give you something in your pocket, but he says, but they said they give you food on campus. I said, yes, they give us food. I said, yes, then that's it. So then wow. So when I went, and I didn't know because there was nobody in my household who had gone to secondary school and had gone with the chop box. So when that tin stuff, the trunk came and it had my shirts and my books and the rest, I thought that was it. I was happy that was it. But when I went, everybody was coming with chop box with stuff. Shito and milk and stuff.
Nido and carry all of them.
I had none of that. My friends still make references to that.
John, let me find out. Deep inside, has all these experiences built you into who you are? Has it made you a better man?
I tell my wife every time that it is extremely important for people to look for something. There is always a danger when things are always given to you. If you are always at the receiving end of stuff, you need to be very careful. It means you are creating you not to be able to chart your own path. It built me up. The environment I grew in really built me up to survive. And survival meant living on the go, making sure that at least you stayed on track. And luckily for me, as I said, at every stage I had a teacher who hold my hand and say, my friend, you can do this.
Keep your head up.
Keep your head up and keep moving. So, okay.
This is one of the things, you learned from all the experiences that you had. And obviously, now that you have children, I'm sure you would impart these things to them. But are there other values you've so far tried to impart into your children, things that you think other parents can listen to today and then pick for their children as well?
Yes, I think we have to let our children work for things. Even if it is a small gift you want to give your child, yes, you can afford it. Maybe you can afford 100 food, but let the child do something and merit that something that you are giving. Parents of today, particularly those of us who have come from deprived home, we run the risk of saying that we don't want our children to go through
the pain we went through.
We have gone through. By so doing, we do not create them and mold them in the best possible way for the future. You will find that if you are not careful to be cyclical, the children who are suffering now are the children who are going to lead tomorrow. Those who so-called are doing very well now and they are not doing well by themselves. It's their parents that are showering things on them. They are not making them work for things. things. And if you do that, in your absence, the child will be found wanting because the ability to be creative and look for things is not there. They just do not have it because they did not grow up getting to know about it. So I would really, really encourage parents to let children work for things. If it is about making sure you dress your bed before you can have that thing, let the child do that, and then you can.
Let me get it straight. And these are things that should be done at the basic level, or when they are coming of age.
I think you should start from day one.
Start from day one.
When they can speak and understand things.
Okay.
Because molding something, when it is flexible, it is easier to mold. If it becomes
hard, it becomes an issue.
Then,
that's true.
You can't really do much to
That's a very great point there. Thank you for that. Now, how well are you balancing your work life and family life? I mean, you are a very busy man with all these banking stuff. You're always and almost always thinking about money, finances, global credit crunch, and all that. Doesn't it come in the way of your family life?
It does.
It does.
I won't sit here and pretend that everything has been rosy in terms of. I mean, family has taken a battery to some extent because there are times that, particularly in the early days of career, there are times that you've had to really stay away from home for longer and longer hours trying to get things done. And I was lucky to have had a wife who understood that I was building a career. But having moved that stage, now I do stuff consciously. And I've seen that work-life balance is not a science. It is, should I say, it's practical.
Yes.
It's something that you have to do consciously. So if it is a weekend that you have to have maybe dinner with your family, you need to make sure you plan it consciously because that time will not be there until you consciously create that time with the family. And it's one of the most important things that you have. And you don't have to go through the other side of it to see how important it is. I read a book and Chasing Daylight. That book was written by a group CEO of KPMG, who just before he died, he was diagnosed for certain terminal illness. He wrote that book. If you read that book, then you come to appreciate that all the things that we crave for now are vanity. The things that are really of value are the people around us, our wives, our children, family, our parents, our friends, the people who make you laugh, people who accept you for who you are, not because of what you have or what you can give. So I will ask that we make that conscious effort, because if you don't do it consciously, there's always something that should take you away from home. There is always. But if you plan it consciously, then you try and then you make that time.
He doesn't only have knowledge on finances and banking. I think he's mastered the art of raising a family as well. But I mean, my next question was going to definitely be about values as a father, but I picked a lot from all these things as you've said. So we're going to move on. Let's talk a little bit about your career as well. You've worked with some of the most reputable banking institutions here in Ghana over the years. When, how did the making of John Awuah, the astute banker, begin? Where did banking come in? At what point in time in your life?
So I started off, I think that is even known here, I started off with, as a business student, when you graduate from business program, BCom, your best place of study or professional life is to join any of the accountancy firms. And I was lucky. I had one of the top 4. I wouldn't mention the name, but I had also registered to write my professional examination, which is the ACCA at the time. And I had given myself some stretch target. I had given myself that I would want to qualify. And it is, I still have that CV with that profile. Because the CV at the time had nothing. I had the listing of the subjects I did at the university and my profile, which is to qualify as a chartered accountant within 2 years and to be a responsible guy in a reputable organization. That was the profile I have. It was actually my profile. As I read it today, it was not my profile. profile. It was an expectation, my objective.
That wasn't who you were. That was who you wanted to become.
So profile is supposed to be who you are, but my understanding of profile at the time, there was nothing. So I had to rather state what I wanted to be or who I wanted to be. So I joined one of the top 4, and I had registered with my small salary at the time to write the ACCA, which doesn't come cheap, or at the time it wasn't cheap. And so with that timeline of 2 years to qualify, I started the work. The pay was good, everything was good. It is the best place you want to be as a young accountant. And I think in one lunch episode, my colleague said, have you heard that in the first year you are not allowed to write exams? I said, what? That takes one whole year away from
your plans.
That plan that I don't want to go and do without. I said, yeah, you go check. Some people got sacked for it the previous year. So I'm not sure I enjoyed that lunch. I came back quickly to the office and made inquiries from the seniors, and they said, yeah, in the first year you are a trainee accountant.
You cannot.
Your job is to learn the job, which I understand to some extent, but for someone who had an aspiration to charter at the time quickly, I didn't have the patience for it. So I took a decision.
Again?
Yeah. So after 28 days, I resigned. I took my first pay. And when I took the very first pay, I thought if I resigned, they could go to my account and withdraw. So I went to the bank to withdraw all the money first. I went to a PBA house in Standard Chartered. I would make the entire withdrawal of the money.
Wow.
And then I wrote my resignation letter, and that was it. So they called me. I gave the reason why I resigned. I stated it clearly. So I remember the HR head called me and said, "Oh, John, we are considering this. You come back." I said, "No, I'm not coming back. I want to write my exams." And I'm happy to say that because of that decision, that policy was cancelled. Yes, that policy of no exams in the first year was cancelled because then they were losing very good people.
But you didn't come back?
No, I didn't. Because then I realized that actually the decision to go home and write my exams was the best. It was a good one. So I went home and did my exams, and luckily for me, I had a job with Western Castings, which you have there. And Western Castings was another revealing experience. I was there as assistant accountant, young guy. I was given everything. The man is a fantastic guy. I won't mention his name, but those who know the company know him. One of the best people you would want to work with. But again, there was little time to do other things. At a young age, I had a company car. The pay was good. The man would travel, bring you shoes, ties, everything. But it was still eating into my time. There was no time to study. You leave office at 11 p.m. and the like. And I said no. I need to start replanning again because that 2 years is still counting. And so after I think 8 months or so, I went to Tractor and Equipment where there was flexibility. You start at 7:30, close at 4:30. But I went to Tractor Equipment to take 1/3 of the salary I was taking at Western Castings. So
you basically left Western Castings and then got into a space that had flexible time for you to study and write your exam, but less money. So it was a sacrifice.
No company car.
No tie and shoes.
I went back to my trotro.
Wow.
I went back to my trotro. I think it was good. You had to all go through those kind of experiences.
John, I want to find out, what was driving you? I mean, aside the fact that you had a plan and you had given yourself 2 years to achieve all these, there might have been something. Were you married back then?
No, I wasn't.
You were not married?
No.
So who was advising you? What were you holding on to? Because you would just jump into one space and leave, not because life is not good there, but because you have something bigger. Yeah. And at certain points, you had to even lose some benefits you had. What was the driving force behind all this?
I mean, I've had this question many times, and I always struggle to answer. Aside to say that there was that hunger to charter, because when we were in university, one of our lecturers had come to class with a teaching assistant who was then a finance manager at BOPP, and like I mentioned, his name was John Bosco. He was a young man. He was chartered, and I just could not envisage myself not getting into that kind of shoes someday. So I was always walking away with a John Bosco
state of mind.
State of mind that I want to charter as quickly as I could. And I did it. Actually, by God's grace, I was able to achieve that. And sometimes you need to trust your instinct. As Steve Jobs once said, for some reason, your instinct knows what is good for you. What sometimes as people we do is we over prioritize the risk, but under prioritize the opportunities. You understand? So if you over prioritize the risk, you always stay where you are, because where you are is always comfortable. There's less riskier, there's certainty, and the like. But sometimes you must listen to that still small voice that tells you, you know what, there is this other thing that you can go for.
I like that. I think I might have to favorite that. We over prioritize the risk and then paid less attention to the returns, pretty much.
Opportunities, yeah.
And if you do not place the risk aside, you never get that big return. And today, I mean, how many years has this been?
That has been, it's 20, okay, let's say 19 years.
19 years.
Yeah, 19 years now. And I said, I got my first banking job at Standard Chartered.
Okay.
When I got it, I was then left with my final papers to write. I think 3 final papers. Before then, I had a very good job with then Fidelity Capital. That one too, very good, everything, but I said, no, let me concentrate. But then I had Standard Chartered. And Standard Chartered at the time, I'm talking about 2001, was, and it still is, to some, I mean, the thing is, it was a glamorous bank. There was no bank that you could compare with Standard Chartered at the time in 2001. It was top, that was the go-to bank for
They had the nicest building in Kumasi.
Nicest building, even in Accra.
2nd Street.
You understand? So everybody was, every graduate would love to work with Standard Chartered. So when I had a chance to work with Standard Chartered as an operations assistant, I didn't know what job that entailed. As operations assistant, and I started calling my friends and asking, should I go? They say operations assistant, but I haven't finished the exam. They say, are you out of your mind? Standard Chartered and Tractor and Equipment, and you are comparing? My friend, there must be something worrying you. There is not one single friend. I now called a lot of them that said, go. Don't go. Stay.
They all said go.
They all said, go to Standard Chartered and start this career. Which, and they said it, with good intentions. But then there was that still something within me that said, why don't you finish your exams? Because banking can be very demanding, and if you go, you may struggle to write the exams, and you may falter, and you will not be able to achieve this target you set for yourself. So I remember I went through all the medicals, the police checks, everything to go to Standard Chartered. But I had not resigned from Chartered Recruitment. So on the day I had to report to Standard Chartered, I was then living at Awuah. At that roundabout, Abuso kind that run about the
I'm not very familiar with that area, but
circle at the Kanishi.
Oh yeah. Okay.
The one they are redoing. Yeah. At that roundabout, I was going like that. I went around about 10 times because if I
hadn't made a decision.
I hadn't made the decision. If I went to the right, I was going to Standard Chartered. If I went to the left, I was going to our circle, and then I was going to Tractor Equipment. And after going for about 10, 13, or I believe about 15 times on the runabout in my VW Beetle, I decided to go back to Tractor Equipment. So I went back.
Hold on. John, hold on. You circled the roundabout about 13 times. Rethinking your decision to leave to Chartered, Standard Chartered. And this was after you had gone through security checks, you had gone through your medical checks. You were pretty much ready to start the job. You were reporting for service that day.
I was being expected there. That day I was expected at work.
And through all this, you had not told...
I hadn't told my boss. I had not resigned.
You were still in there?
Yeah. I had not written my resignation letter. So I went back to work with my mind, what is wrong with
Were you dressed different?
Okay, so we used to dress nicely at Tractor Equipment too. I was in the accounts department, so you wear your tie, but that day I was dressed differently, in my best and I had my jacket in the car because I didn't used to wear jacket to work at tractor equipment. But I had my jacket in the car, but I had my tie on and everything. When I went back to tractor equipment, I couldn't put the jacket onto the office because then it would be, are you going for some interview? In those days, it was fashionable in those days when people were preparing for interview to come to work dressed because they would be going in the course of the day to another place.
And so you resumed work. I mean, you went back to work. It's not like you resumed. That was your work already.
That was my work already.
What happened to Standard Chartered? Did they call you? Did they reach out to you?
So that day, I think about an hour or so, about 9 o'clock, I got a call from one Amma who said, John, we are waiting for you for the orientation. Then I said in a very low tone, oh, madam, please, I'm not coming. Then she said, what? I said, oh, madam, I'm not coming. So, after about an hour, the department I was assigned to, that was the trade services. The head of department was called Nanajiman. He called me. And he was very happy with me. He said, my young man, who do you think you are? Do you know how many people are looking for this opportunity?
And you have it and you're joking with it?
Yeah, but then at that time I had said no to this other woman already. So I just said, I'm very sorry, but I don't think I'll be coming. I want to concentrate on my exams and finalize it. So I stayed. To be honest with you, at that time I thought I had made a mistake. I thought I had stretched it too far. And it kept me thinking. But I went back to the books and I did my final papers. I think it was in May. I did my final papers in June, and then I chatted. Results came in July.
And you had passed.
I had passed. 2 months or 3 months, I went to start. 3 months later, I got a call from Standard Chartered.
They called you back?
They called me.
And they called you back and you were a better person?
I was a better person. And if I had gone to Standard Chartered 3 months earlier, I would have gone at a grade 5 levels below. Because I waited 3 months and prepared myself, I went from being at the time the
trade service,
the B10 or something, and then all the way to B7, and then I think after confirmation to B6. It was it will take you an entire career to get there. If you are not careful to start if you had gone to start where I started, to get to where I got to in 3 months, if I had gone in the normal course of things, it would have taken me about 15 to 20 years.
But all that was done in 3 months because of that decision you took at the roundabout. You drive by that place and what runs through your mind?
I always remember it.
Wow.
I always remember it. And I always remember that car, my wine VW Beetle.
We should keep it, man. It's a famous car. We should keep it. I mean, this is a very inspiring story. I've spoken to a lot of people. I mean, people barely know some of the backstory of great men like you, especially in the finance field. So let me just be honest with you. Let me break it down. And I know people listening now will bear witness as well. When it comes to bankers and people in the financial sector, in our minds, you guys are fine. I mean, they wear the nicest suits. They are fine. They will talk to you about money. They are sorted. They barely go through these. But these are some very tough decisions you have made in the past. You mentioned earlier that it's the drive to just succeed, it's the drive to stand out that keeps you going. But weren't any of these influenced by the fact that you didn't really have, you're not really a friend's influence person? I mean, you have kept out, you mentioned that you called a few friends, but in the course of all you said, you've not really touched on, I consulted my friends and we sat down and all that. Do you think your decision not to go, I mean, your decision for waiting and getting to the position you got to could have been influenced if you were super close to a set of people, if you were involved in things that in regular terms would influence decisions like that?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. If I had prioritized the state of the institution and the opportunity that I would have opened myself up to, at the time, and giving less priority to what I had set as my objective, I would have gone. And as I said, there was not one single person. And in all the career moves that I had made, there was not one time that I called somebody to discuss. It means that this was a tough one.
Yes.
Because Standard Chartered in those times, it was not. It's not your usual. You won't get it. So to get it, and you are consulting means that I got to a level where I said, perhaps if I take this decision alone, I may be found wanting later, and I may blame myself. Let me find out from some friends, and they all, they said it for the right reasons, but then I came back and said, no, the decision is mine.
It depends on
at the end of the day. I'm the one going to have to bear with this, and I have to take the decision that works for me.
Wow, I'm very impressed. 54 past 10, we're about 6 minutes before branching to the third hour of the morning. We'll take a quick break. But let me remind you, you can join us on Facebook, Y1079 FM. If you have questions for Mr. John Awuah, he's in the building with us, Deputy CEO, Ghana Bankers Association. 020222207 to get you in via WhatsApp. If you are online with us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, kindly drop in the hashtag Wiley the Boat Series, and it's going to come directly to us, all right? Don't forget, this is Y107.9 FM. Shouts going out to all of the guys dropping in comments on our Facebook. I'm going to read them in a bit. Before we do that, don't forget, Mr. John Awuah is still in the building, and just before we went on the break, we're talking about his decision to skip Standard Chartered. It actually got him to come back a better person with a bigger position, of course, a fat check. I know the check was different.
Yeah.
It wasn't a regular one. You are referred to as the subject matter expert on financial controls and governance here in Ghana. Briefly, can you explain or break it down for our audience in the simple terms? I mean, the simplest terms. And just how essential is it to have experts like you around?
I like, but in finance, what you call the control side of finance, and I took very active interest in that when I joined Barclays Bank as a financial controller. That was a time in my career that defined a certain portion of accounting that interests me much, which is establishment of controls, making sure that as a business we run on a solid platform. Accountants are backroom people, and unfortunately we are hardly in the limelight because we are not customer facing, we are in the back office. But a lot of the things that gets done in the organization. The foundation is built by the architects, accountants, I call the architects of the organization, and that portion of finance is what sustains an institution. Creating an environment where there is less leakage and there is more control. That if money is coming in, we know that money is coming in, this is where it's sitting, and we are all sure that money is sitting there. People are taking reconciliations in the institution very seriously, and they are also following the governance process for whatever that is undertaken in the organization, be it expense approval, discretion, exercise of discretion, and the like. So it is building that fortress where an institution can then build on to, or creating the fortress where an institution can build on to create value. That is where the governance, the financial controls and governance
comes in. Wow. Now, so how essential, is it to have experts like you around?
It's rather
on the national level, regional level, firm level. I mean, company level.
What happens? I think it is very essential. Elsewhere, the developed economies, it's people like us who get the visibility and the voice to express views on national agenda and the discussions or the discourse, the national discourse. Unfortunately, in Ghana is the reverse. It's people who have the time, have less work to do, who can move from station to station and do not care about credibility, who have the leverage, and whom people get the chance to express views on national policies. And also, what the politicians have made politics to be is such that they've made it more unattractive to people like us to get involved.
People, when you say people like us, people who are well versed in
Ghana, you cannot speak
in the systems.
We have so polarized that you cannot express an opinion without somebody sitting somewhere and painting you a certain color. So if it is party A that is in government, you are supposed to say everything
that will favor
party A, so that you are seen as okay.
But if I'm not mistaken, people like you are just interested in the development.
We are interested in setting the things the way they are to drive the agenda. So if change has to occur, then we all work around what can be done to create that change. But as a country, unless we go back to really reorient ourselves, and particularly for people with microphones like yourself, who have the chance to invite people to speak on matters of national importance, to begin looking in the population, who do we really want our listeners to listen to on this issue?
Who wants to cause a change?
Yes. Who will have that background expertise, the know-how to comment dispassionately and without mincing words on exactly what this matter we are discussing is. Not to say it to favor a certain political agenda, but what is happening in Ghana, we cannot have a discussion. Every discussion tomorrow, if I go and say something about the exchange rate, somebody will come and say John is NDC. If I go and say something about interest rate, another person will say I'm MPP. So everything is torn between NDC and MPP, and it is not helping the discourse, and it's not helping in attracting professionals into the fold of national discourse, where they have the freedom, academic freedom or the professional freedom to express their views without being. We were here when a whole pastor was painted in a party color because the pastor had gone to say something about one party or the other, and I think it doesn't help with our developmental effort at all.
Do you think, moving on as a nation, we should draw our think tanks closer to the policy making? I feel like, well, based on what you're saying, there's a long disconnect between the ones who actually have the expertise, the ones who really understand the systems, socioeconomic developments, people who understand the social lives, how to improve our finances and all that. But the very moment that expertise is rendered into the situation, it's polarized.
Yeah.
Basically. And so if we're able to draw these close, I mean, how do we curb that as well? Don't you guys have to actively get involved?
No, and that is why who creates the platform? It is the media people who create the platform. They have the facility, the infrastructure.
That's true.
So if you don't call that person, the person is muted. You understand? We've had people who have commented on national agenda in this country for decades and decades and decades. They are still the people we are happy to rely on. They've been speaking for decades. Nothing has changed.
Yes.
You understand? Can we, as a media group, or I don't know whether you guys have an association, come together and say, you know what, in matters such as this, we will not even call this so-called some of the. I know there are very good. There are some very good civil society organizations, but we all know there are also some civil society organizations that are almost aligned in one way or the other to party A or party B or institution A or institution B. Can we begin to filter so that on matters of national significance, matters that we want to have frank discussion on, and if it is advice that we want to give to government, we can give those that without party colorization.
With zero,
we can have that discourse, and then you people are the ones to champion that progress. I think we can do it. You have to take the mantle and say
yes, we can.
Starts with one.
That is why we're here. I mean, people, our listeners, love the experimental bit of these things. I mean, we would not push when it's all say this, say that. It's just words.
Yeah.
That is why we bring people like you. You share your life experience with people so that they know that in order to change systems, you must first and foremost maybe build yourself. If you get to this point, he got to this point, he had to make a decision between two things. Did he listen to politics? Did he look at his personal interests? Did he look at his pockets to make the decision? Did he take bribe? I mean, all these things.
Yeah.
I believe as a brand, bit by bit, we will get there.
Yeah.
We're causing a change.
Yeah.
We're starting small. It's going to cause a massive change.
That's correct.
We are a nation that is we really react to change, and it's expected. And so once people like you are in line with the projects that we're doing, we're definitely assured of a proper destination with it.
Yeah.
The change might not be huge, but it will be significant.
Yeah, it must
we'll definitely get there.
Must start from somewhere.
Back to the topic. You before being appointed as CEO of UMB, you had worked in various roles, across many banking institutions. Which one of them offered the most challenging prospects, and how did you respond to it in your banking, career? Which field, which particular brand offered you the most challenging, prospects, and how did you respond to it?
I believe my time in Barclays Bank as a financial controller was a defining moment. I entered the bank at the lowest point in the bank's history. Barclays was a very high-performing organization at the time. Before at those times, but they went through some problems, and when I joined, they had gone on from being the number one bank in terms of profitability to the very last. And I joined at the time, and I joined. That period was a period of corrections, trying to see what had gone wrong, what needed to change, and I fortunately was happy to have played a very, very big role during that period. And also my time in GCB, there was a transformation. And indeed, when I remember when I joined GCB, some friends called me and said, are you not tired of scavenging? It's like always you are digging in the gutters, cleaning stuff. GCB 2 was another cleanup exercise. So we went there. We all know article, standard GCB used to refer to the bank as article. The system is gone off. But now you won't say that to the bank. And I'm happy also to have played a role there. There's a significant role that we played to get the bank to where it is now.
Integrity seems to be one of the key words when it comes to service across a lot of the sectors. Banking, security. Our police people are service in integrity or with integrity. Service in integrity. Good. Per your experience as a banker, in the financial field, how crucial is integrity to the overall success of a banker? And how can, especially the young ones listening to us now who are in the field you find yourself in, protect their integrity?
Integrity is about the only thing that can take you very far, apart from your skills. Your competence and the rest. If you are not a person of integrity, it's very easy for you to lose credibility. You can falter at the very least of temptations. And in banking, there are some level of significant temptations here and there that you need to rely on that backbone of what is this potentially going to cause to my image? Because image is everything. And if you went into banking and nobody knew you, and you are then people know you, they know you because of your image, your name. And people should be concerned about the matters or the issues that affect or have the potential to affect their name. So issues of integrity are of prime importance. And I believe it was Warren Buffett who said, if you are hiring, you have to hire integrity. Because if your employee doesn't have it, you've lost him forever. And it's not something you grow. You have to recruit it.
Yes.
You understand? It's difficult.
You don't get people in before you instill integrity.
No. You need to try as much as possible to recruit it, and then create, whilst the person is there, an environment that does not corrupt that person. You see, and I say this every time, if you create a weak control environment, you will turn very good people into bad people. Because for somebody to perpetrate fraud, they need only two things to happen. They need an opportunity and a motivation. The opportunity is a breakdown in controls. If I take the money, nobody will see it.
Okay.
So they are just relying on my being a good person. That is why the money is there. And the motivation is, am I in financial crisis? Am I being pushed? Then something that hitherto I was nowhere considering even dipping my hand in, because that opportunity is still there. And I have a motivation now, because now my pocket is dry. So what organizations are doing now is they are not investing significantly in creating the structures that protect the environment. That is, creating the control environment, making the control environment robust, so that when you put somebody there, you do not make a very good person a bad person by virtue of the environment you have created for them to work in.
Wow, that's true. That's in the time. You basically set the systems right.
Yeah.
Build the system so much that it doesn't turn good people into bad people.
Yeah.
But in all that, make sure you recruit integrity.
Recruit it.
Do not get them in before you instill integrity in them. I think integrity is what will actually keep all other things equal, regardless the systems. And so, if the person gets in and everybody else is doing it, integrity is what will tell him, no, I don't have to do it.
I don't have to do it. I don't want to do this.
As CEO, you initiated the championed successful strategies with the private sector, as well as partnered the public sector on initiatives for the development of the country, Ghana. What informed your decision to channel the bank's energies into that, or in that direction, towards that direction?
You see, as banks, we have a decision to make. A decision of whether we want Ghana to remain this small country, small economy, and then we fight over that little pie, or a decision to broaden that pie so that every institution can take a little bit of it and we will be happy. If everybody is talking about unemployment, we are talking about what are we doing as a country to create employment. If you are a banker and you have an opportunity to invest in a concern that will generate jobs, there is a company, whilst I was in the bank, we assisted on this Pintex route. Whenever I have visited that company, I go and I see Ghanaians in the shop floor working, and I say, where would these people have been? Over 1,000 people on the shop floor working and very seriously moving around, and they would have been on the streets, buying and selling or little things. The only way to create employment is to build a manufacturing and industrial sector.
That's true.
What this country we have unfortunately succeeded at doing is to jump a very big gap. We created a very big gap in our developmental process. From being an agrarian economy, farmers, we jumped straight into service. Every economy that has developed moved from that side of agrarian gradually into manufacturing, industrialization.
Yes, exactly.
Create the jobs, and then the jobs will create the service.
But we skipped that part and we've gone to the service.
So in Ghana, when you go to the big hotels, you see only white people, but foreigners. But we have not created that critical mass of people who would go and patronize those activities. We've avoided them. They are on the streets selling dog chains. How would they go and sit at Golden Tulip to buy lunch? They are selling bread. You understand? So you can have very nice service institution, and the people who are really utilizing it are foreigners, because we have skipped that big. Pick our GDP as a country and disaggregate it. The proportion that is agri, proportion that is industry, and then what is service? Service is about 50. I think it's 58% or thereabout. How can a country of our level...
John, so don't our leaders know this?
I'm sure they know better than I do. They know better than I do. But the thing is, they say action. That is the word. It's not what you do, it is what you do.
Are people not advising our tops? Don't we have people like you? Aren't the voices heard? I mean, help me understand how it works, because if we know this and we're still moving towards that direction, then I mean...
Yeah, I think you said it before we went on that break. This country, we've become a country of pockets. Pocket people who speak, whose pockets are speaking. When they speak, it's not their conscience and their expertise that is talking. It is influenced by their pocket. So you have sometimes very good people who find themselves in a place where they can create change, but because of some personal interest here and there, that change suffers, or they are unable to pursue that or prosecute the agenda. Until, as a country, we come back. I think we need to take a big step back. And it goes all the way to the household level. change a whole lot of things. The things that make us happy, even the things we eat, our taste. No country has developed eating other people's food. You have to eat what you grow, what you grow, what you produce, and everything. That is where we have to move to. It is when we are always talking about, the Ghana shoe made in Ghana. This one is made in Ghana, by the way. Shoe is made by Hillbill shoes. Shoes that are things that are made in this country. When people to the extent that when people create things in Ghana, they label it made in Italy. Even Ghana rice, some people are labeling it from Thailand.
Made in China and made in Thailand.
Because we have created a certain some inferiority complex around things that are our own and elevated other economies products. We need to go back to that drawing board to see, and I like what the president said about industrializing the country and pushing, these Friday wares and the rest. It doesn't have to be only Friday wares. Maybe we have to move towards saying that if you are in a public sector, we are in private sector, formal sector.
When we say official outfit, it should be
official outfit should be a traditional outfit, gradually built. And because the person cannot prepare or cannot manufacture 5 shares in a day, in 10 years, you will not be able to manufacture 6 in a day. It is when they start demand, the demand will push for them to invest, and the investors will come in, and then they can now, produce several shares or trousers or shoes in the nice quantities and in the quality that we have. Quality is developed, capacity is developed over time. China and Korea, Japan, America, they did not.
They didn't start like this. They didn't start like this, and I also feel personally, if we start patronizing what is made here, our dream of fully industrializing our economy will come into play, because then more hands will be needed on board, more service personnel will be needed to actually manage from the back end.
Yeah.
And then we'll be self-sufficient, because we grow what we eat what we grow, and so it stays in here. The money stays in here. It circulates in here, and then with time, there will be enough capital to improve quality.
Yes, and then we will begin also selling to others, so that we also become a net exporter of so many other.
Then we can make the money we want.
Yes, and then we
but until then,
and then we can now begin wearing the shoe. It may not be us. It may be our children or their children.
Yes, but somebody needs to start.
Somebody must start. Somebody must pay the price. For others to begin benefiting from the activity.
Nice. Some of your initiatives include support of the small and medium-scale enterprise SMEs in Ghana through the UMB Center for Business. How does the SME support the growth of a country, and how can Ghana take advantage of that? You mentioned the fact that we need to industrialize the economy. Small, medium-scale enterprises. How does the support for them benefit the country in general? How does Ghana step in to take advantage of SMEs?
Yeah, you see, if you go to Registrar General's department right now and pick the statistics of all the companies that are registered in Ghana, I believe, and I stand corrected, that over 85 to 90% of them are either small, medium. Or micro. You understand? So if you want to create value, if you want to create employment, where do you have to create it?
You focus on the bigger portion.
That is where the people are. That is where our capacity is. That is where we need to begin gradually investing in these SMEs to gradually create the big corporations that we always like to make references to. Ghana, we like to make references to it and Google, but we forget that those companies started very small. They started very small.
Jeff Bezos started from his garage.
Yes, and then gradually they created the capacity, internal capacities, and then they developed to where the global corporates that they have become now. We have to begin. There's no shortcut to progress. We have to begin understanding that as a country, as a people, that you have to pay and then build capacity. Go through the mill. And much as we skipped a whole civilization in terms of the manufacturing and industrialization to move to service, it's the same way the country shifted, the same way as people, we also shifted. People who cannot afford a certain kind of school just because they want to look good are putting kids in those schools to create stress, and that stress is translating in corrupt activities in the workplace, and that corrupt activities is leading to bad roads, because if it's an inspector who is supposed to make sure the contractor is doing his job, then he will go and then take a cut, and the contractor's job is 2 years' time we are awarding the same contract to another person. We sometimes make the problem so big that we are unable to tell exactly what the problem is. No, the problem is not that big. If you break it down,
minute ones.
Yes, it is when you start solving from the granular level that you solve the big one. You like talking about big corruption. You forget
that the corruption is you and I.
The boy sitting on the street goes to Malcolm, buy something for 1 cedi. How much? He said 25.
25 cedis. Let's look at the nose mask. People buy it very cheap and then decided to sell it high.
Don't look too far away. When
John, I like your thinking. I really like your thinking. I don't even like you. Break it down in your... Because I mean...
If you don't break the problem down, you will think it's unsurmountable.
I think that is why we're not moving forward. Because you and I that are supposed to point fingers at who is corrupt at the top, we're also involved in corruption in our own way. And so at the end of the day, you can't fight what you're involved in.
Yeah.
You can't fight who you are.
Yeah.
If you're able to stand out...
There is no moral high standard.
Exactly. And set yourself aside.
Yeah.
Look at yourself and see how you fall short of these same things that you're trying to point fingers at. Then you can actually be able to point fingers at what is being done
whether you
wrong.
are part of the problem or you are part of the solution. You need to be able to answer that question. Am I part of the problem I'm complaining about, or I'm part of the solution? If you're talking about traffic offense and people are talking and accident, and you pick your phone and you call a radio station about that accident, and you run through red at the traffic light, are you part of the problem or you are part of the solution? So we don't have to look too far away to see our problems and how to fix them.
Guys, think about it, man. Are you part of the problem or you're part of the solution? John has a simple question for you. If you have an answer for me, let me know. Let's move on. I mean, one part that I really love about our development as a nation is technology. Now, back, during your days at UMB, the company made huge investments in the area of technology, which culminated in the bank achieving many feats in the banking sector. However, with the constant advancement in technology, is it the best to constantly invest in technology?
That is the future of banking.
Okay.
The future of banking is not in brick and mortar. It is in creating an infrastructure and creating bankers. The future of banking is not to have a lot of bankers. It is to let the customer become the banker. So that as you are sitting there, you can be doing your work here and still be making transfers to your suppliers.
Right now.
and be making payroll. You understand? So you become your own banker. That is the future of banking. So any investment in the right architecture, technology architecture, that enables you to be part of that future, then you are set for the future. If you are a bank and your investments now, you're in your strategy, you still have a strategy of opening branches everywhere, then you need to begin asking yourself whether your strategy is preparing you for the future. Because the future is not in brick and mortar. The future is to make the customer the banker and to let the customer use whatever device they have to perform that banking.
To make things faster.
Brick and mortar is your cell phone.
Okay. John, but I remember a few years ago, a few years ago, about 10, 15 years ago, when, computer systems were introduced to the various sectors, a lot of people were laid off their work. I mean, you're saying that is the future now, technology, opening a lot of branches. Won't that reduce the number of people that are employed? Won't that create unemployment? Back to the same thing that we're talking about?
Yeah, but if you cast your mind back, in that same period, there was nothing called a cloud engineer.
Well,
there was nothing called a big data analyst.
A web developer.
The web developer. You understand? The future of jobs is not in accountancy and a lawyer and no, it's not the hard technical skill. The future is going to be about how adaptable and scalable your skill is.
Tailored skills.
Tailored skill. to what extent can you transition from being a marketing professional to becoming a production assistant or production person? So it is your adaptability that is going to fit you into the future of jobs. It is not whether you have become a chief accountant and therefore, if not, because the systems are going to prepare the accounts for us. So accountants are going to have to ask themselves the question, are we going to have a big finance department in the future? Or are accountants going to become like sales engineers, engineering the sales platform, making sure that there are creative ways of engaging with the customer, and that is not reserved for a certain category or of a professional development. So I do not subscribe to that school of thought that the mere fact that people are investing in technology is going to
putting people out of jobs.
No, a lot more jobs are going to be created. People must then reorient themselves to be part of that.
I mean, it's going to push more people. So let's say a branch manager will pick up web developing, software development.
Go and check the leading jobs now.
They're tech-based.
Go and check. You can pick on your phone and check
Facebook,
right now.
the rest.
We are talking about a site or something, a web developer, a cloud engineer. So many, I can't even name them. They don't come immediately to me.
Wow, great points there, John. Honestly, I must say I'm really loving this interview. And shout going out to all our viewers on Facebook, by the way. I'm getting some very nice comments on there. Nathaniel Ajate says, happy birthday to me. Happy birthday going out to you, Nathaniel. Francis Asu Asare says, Mr. John Awuah is a good man, and I'm proud he's a product of Osei Tutu School, Obrimpong for life. Yao Puni says, good morning, Rev Skin, and regards to Mr. John Awuah. Mostly in critical times, only thing you need is to, okay, I'm admiring your story here. Say hashtag Wiley the Board Series. That message is quite scrambled there, but I hope you guys got it right. The board chairman of UMB, after your departure, described you as a strong advocate for team efforts. Is that your biggest trump card? And what are your secrets to building a good, vibrant team? I mean, in looking out for, in picking your team, what do you look out for? Since you are a good team effort leader.
You need team dynamics. You do not have to pick people because of proximity to you, but what contribution they can make to whatever that team is set out to do. That dynamics is important, and I always advocate that as much as possible we need to reduce the size of teams to make them more effective and to make coordination easier. Anyone at the table should count for something. And when you are the team, and I learned this from a prominent man in society, that's about Tibuat in a discussion with him. They said, make conscious effort to be the last person to speak and listen a lot more. Your presence at the team meeting or being part of a team is not always to be the only one speaking. They say if your voice is the loudest in the room, then you are in the wrong room. It means that you are not learning anything. If you are the only one speaking, then you are in the wrong room. You have to be in a room where you feel like listening a lot more. Then it means that you are circled with the right thinking people of like-minded people, or even people of higher competence and thinking than you. But listen more, and if you are able to consciously stay back, let people make their point and see where you can draw synergies. A team will always be successful if the dynamics is right.
Now, we mentioned earlier that you are the deputy CEO of the Ghana Association of Bankers. What specific role does the association play, and how much influence does it wield in the regulation of the banking sector here in Ghana?
So the Ghana Association of Bankers is like a grouping of all banks. So all the bank CEOs that you see around there, all the banks in Ghana, the universal banks and the ARB Apex Bank, are all part of the Ghana Association of Bankers. What we do is to be the voice of banks, so that matters that affect banks receive the right visibility and that we carry their message to the right corteses and the right people, so that issues that affect the industry can receive the right attention. And also, we are a check on our activities. We do not want the kind of reactive nature of people complaining before banks react to the complaints that they have. But then, as an association, can we whip ourselves in line when one or two of us go in a direction that does not speak well of the industry as a whole? We are a public interest industry, so what happens to one necessarily, we are kind of linked together, and therefore what happens to one has a tendency of affecting the entire industry. So we are very careful, and we do a lot of self-introspection to help our members to stay in line. And we are an advocacy group, and a thought leadership organization, making sure that the research on banking, and we can also provide some highlights or some commentary on policy statements of states, and also assist with the design and rollout of policies.
How long has this association been around?
Ghana Association of Bankers has been around for 40 years.
40 years?
Yes, it was set up in 1980. And so we've been around for quite a while. Yeah.
Okay, all right. What, in your opinion, has accounted for the divergence of views amongst the banking community with respect to the recent banking sector reforms and the actions taken by the Bank of Ghana? The cause of the divergence of views?
Yeah, I try to stay away from, because of the work I do, commentary on the work that was done. But the point is, I want people, when they are commenting on the action that was taken, to look at this COVID environment and how the banks have been able to weather it. And then we ask ourselves, how were the banks able to do this? It means that as a result of that process, we have a lot more solid banks with proper governance, banks that are liquid, and that have the capacity to create, the kind of financial intermediation that we are supposed to be doing. So much as I wouldn't want to comment on the merit or otherwise of the action, because there's always several ways to allocation.
Exactly.
Yeah, but depending on the part that you charge, what you counter is what you can talk about. So that kind of commentary on that action, I try to stay away
from that. But I mean, you said fair enough.
People should know that banks have been able to weather this storm through the process of COVID and been able to help with liquidity in the environment. We haven't had any simmering crisis in the environment, no liquidity. We did not hear of anything of such nature. We were classified as an essential service, and therefore during the lockdown we were working.
Yes.
And nothing happened. Banks kicked in their disaster recovery programs and business continuity, and everything worked perfectly. It means that we now have solid banks that are capable and they have the right capital base to help our customers.
No weak links in there.
No, we don't.
From what we're being told, mobile money transactions are currently outstripping banking transactions. I mean, before we even go on with the question, is this true or not?
No, I don't have the data. It's not outstripping banking transactions.
Okay.
What people don't know is the funds in the mobile money environment is still sitting in the banks.
It still comes from the bank.
It's sitting in the banks. Your e-money is sitting in the banks. So we don't see the telcos as like they are taking.
Not competitors.
Yeah, but we are collaborators. Okay. We work together to provide value to our customers. You understand? So it is not a matter of somebody's eating another person's pie, because at the end of the day, you need a bank to be able to even do the telco financial services.
It's just an improvement on the service, just as you mentioned.
And the ultimate beneficiary
system.
Ultimate beneficiary is the customer, and we are happy when customers have seamless access to financial service.
What do you see, or what do you think will be the future of banking, and how must banks position themselves to stay relevant and solvent at the same time? I mean, advice to other banks. I mean, people who have a big stake in banking and all that.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically staying in control, keeping your eyes on the ball, creating a risk regime that is holistic, and focusing on your people, because at the end of the day, it's the people that would drive whatever progress or otherwise an institution will go through. The future of banks, as I said, in my personal opinion, banks are going to become big fintechs in the future.
Okay.
Yes, we will still have our brick and mortar around, but the over-reliance on going to a brick and mortar environment to be served as a banking client, as years go by, will become less relevant and less relevant, and I'm sure at some point it will become very, very, very minimal in terms of your ability to transact your banking service. And most banks now can and almost entirely serve their customers on the other alternate channels without a customer walking to the banking hall. So I see that as more investment in that direction as the one that's going to drive the future of banking.
Great. Now, since you touched on banks being able to deliver their service on the alternative routes, not having them come in and all that, COVID-19 is being touted as a catalyst for African countries to break the chains of dependence on foreign assistance and foreign aid. In your opinion, how exactly should we approach this? And to begin with, what are the sectors we must improve on to realize this total outcome?
So it's we need to take the bull by the horn.
Okay.
And COVID has proven to all of us that you cannot build your country relying on another country. It got to a point some countries were saying we are not going to export this medication. You understand? So it means that we need to build our own internal capabilities, and it goes back to the point that we made earlier. So as financial institutions, we are bent or interested in institutions or promoters who would want to take advantage of the opportunities that have been created by the pandemic, and to help change the structure of our economy, or the economy of Ghana. It is only by so doing that we will realize the point that you made about creating the level of employment that takes our people off the street,
yes,
and also building that critical mass of the middle level who will become banking customers, yes, and will become customers to the shopping malls, the customers to our hospitals, customers to our good schools, and then by so doing, the good schools will also get the money, they will pay their taxes, and its multiplier effect is enormous. So as banks, we are there as a catalyst to help that process happen. But we need people to take advantage. It takes two to tango.
Yes.
Yeah, and we need the customers to come to the table with bankable projects, and then the banks are willing and able to put the funds to oil that wheel.
Well said, man. I know my Osei Tutu listeners are very proud of their brother at this moment. You really said a lot. I think at this point we'll just take two questions from our listeners. 0202222073 gets you by WhatsApp. If you haven't sent yours already, kindly do so. If you are on Twitter right now, the hashtag is #LeaderboardSeries. I have one in here already from Solomon Opoku Ajenim at Fidelity Bank. He says your bank, UMB, also declared its intention to partner the One District, One Factory Secretariat and made available a sum of $100 million, for it. What informed the bank's decision to support the initiative, and what was the response from the manufacturing and business community?
Yes, as I said, I'm a firm believer in putting money where our mouth is, so that we can create the value that we want to see. What we have seen elsewhere that we want to create in Ghana, we have to begin proactively putting ammunition behind those machines. So that is why that's what I showed to the board, and the board was gracious enough to agree that yes, it's a bold statement the president made, and taking everything politics aside, it is a statement that helps to restructure our economies, and banks must be at the forefront to partner government, because the government program was not a political program.
No.
It was for private sector to drive that agenda, and then for banks to assist private sector. So the demand was good. Before I left the bank, we had done a few of the transactions. One of them received some significant visibility. I believe the factory is almost done. We gave them, I believe, $10.9 million to build a factory from scratch.
Okay.
And there are a few, those that were on the government program of reviving companies that were almost distressed but had capacity to create value. That one to UMB was quite aggressive in that area, and they gave some significant funding to those companies.
Let me get this straight. I mean, Per, what you're saying, this decision wouldn't have been influenced by political background whatsoever.
Not at all.
If it had come from any party
at all,
it would have still been supported because of that, because of the motive behind
because of the motive and the change that
it would have caused.
Yeah, would have caused.
Great. Second question is coming in from Adam Soglo inside Who Polytechnic. It says, Rev, ask Mr. John Awuah if he would ever consider becoming Ghana's finance minister if the opportunity arises. Honorable.
Whatever people have told me to come into public service, working in the public sector, I've said that I will not survive.
Why so?
Those who know me and have worked with me know why I always keep saying I will not survive. But I don't rule anything out.
Okay.
We are in a country, and we must, as we are happy to comment, we should be part of the agenda to solve the problems we talk about. So on a very good day, when my time at where I am now, which I have job to do, so my mind is 100%
on that,
on what I'm doing now. On another day, I mean, nobody knows. You never say never. But then I'm always available in the event that political actors or opposition actors or whoever calls for views on national agenda. I'm very happy to be part of that process.
Ken will bear witness. I mean, last 2 weeks, Dr. Darius Osei was here. I think someone sent in a similar question about he becoming or joining the Ministry of Health. He said he's not really going to fight against that if the opportunity arises. But now there's work to be done at UGMC. So for now, he's focusing on his work. Do you find time to indulge in a bit of, anything relaxing, an activity? You have a favorite holiday destination? What do you do if you want to lay your hair down?
I'm a big fan of Formula One.
So you go to Dubai? And
No, I do make some of the trips. The one I enjoyed most was the trip I made with some friends to Singapore to watch Formula One. I'm a huge fan. I watch tennis and I play tennis as well. Even this morning I did. I make conscious effort to do some little bit of it. I'm not a fantastic player, but I just like the energy and the exercise that it gives you. But basically that's what I do to relax. I play some tennis.
How do you measure success personally, and what's your most valued life mantra?
Don't live your life for others, live it for you. And once you have that very much top of your mind, you are almost always happy because you are thinking about you, not what others are thinking about you. So because you cannot control people's views about you, you can only make sure that you are being true to yourself and hope that people will see that as who you are. But what people think about you is none of your business. It is what you see and the kind of value that you see.
That's what matters.
If it means your children are in that school, it's not because another person's children are in that school, but it's because you can afford it and you think it is good for the children's education. People should not put undue and unnecessary pressures on them. The country is on overheating because people who should be renting 1 bedroom are living in 8-bedroom houses. The country is on overheating. You understand? We are we are always looking at what is the next person is doing, and that is why we become a country of less innovation and more of copycat of what other people are doing, space to space, and everybody runs to space to space.
Yeah.
Communication center, everybody runs to it. Filling stations, everybody runs to it. Pure water, everybody runs to it. Microfinance, everybody runs to it, because we are always looking at the outward display of success. Nobody is really drilling down on this man who has opened that filling station. How did he open it? What kind of mechanism, what kind of analysis, what kind of experiences has he gone through? Even who provided the funding? All they know is cars are going to the filling station and leaving, so the man is making money. Next time he goes somewhere, takes money, and then the next plot he is also buying a filling station. The fact that you put another filling station on that street does not double the number of vehicles on the street. You are only going to share in the number of vehicles. So do your own sense check. You understand, and you'll be happy. I mean, be yourself. That is basically what
you said it all. You said it all. I mean, my next thing was going to be your final words to the youth, but I think it's all in one. At this point, I just want to say thank you. I mean, it's been a journey. We've enjoyed every bit of this, from the genesis to the end.
Yeah,
we've enjoyed every single thing. And I mean, thanks to all the guys that joined in via WhatsApp, the ones that are watching us on Facebook right now. Mr. John came through and shared with us his life experience. I mean, we've learned a lot from it, from your work experiences, where you've gone through, all the systems that you've been able to influence, and that, I mean, you can see that what we're bringing to you, right?
Wow.
So this is a surprise for you. Thank you. This is a thank you gesture for coming through.
Thank you very much.
A beautiful portrait picture of Mr. John Awuah, Deputy CEO, Ghana Bankers Association, presented by Ken from Y Leaderboard Series and Global Media Alliance. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us today on the show. We appreciate. I mean, put this at your office. It has the YFM logo up there. Ghana's #1 youth entertainment and developmental brand. And now we've added the development because we're moving towards a different direction. Keep this in your office. Whenever you look at it, think about the time you spent with us and the youth you influenced and empowered today on the show. So thank you so much. It's by Memories on the Wall, by the way. For you guys watching on Facebook, Instagram, if you want to get a copy for yourself, check out Memories on the Wall, and then they will copy you one. Sir,
thank you.
And your final words.
Thank you very much. I think it's been an experience for me. Your questions have been life revealing. There are some things that are not recounted in my life before that you fished out of me. And to the people who have listened to us or have watched us, I'm grateful. And I hope that the little things that we've talked about, people will put them to practice and begin to see themselves for who they are and see what they can create. And to the youth too, I say the days when after university you carry your CV and moving around for jobs gradually is getting behind us. See what you can create. I'm sure if I had come out of university by now, my priorities in life would have been very different.
That's true.
And therefore, I would like them to take very bold steps and try to create the employment they want for themselves so that others can be employed. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us as well. And to you at home locked into the show, if you're still at work, big ups to yourself for joining us on Y Leaderboard Series. Today's 52 past 11. This has been an interesting talk with Mr. John Awuah, Deputy CEO, Ghana Bankers Association. Don't forget, this is Y 107.9 FM.
YFM. Official frequency for the young and young at heart.